I'm Hannah Williams, 28 years old, living in Boston. 2 months ago, I woke up after a brain surgery that the doctor warned me was life-threatening. Before I could even recover from the dizzy spells or get used to the long incision on my head, another truth hit me. My family had abandoned me. On the day I was discharged, the nurse wheeled me to the door in a wheelchair. I sat there with my bag on my lap, still tired, my vision blurred from painkillers. Around me, every other patient was being picked up by their loved ones. Some brought flowers, others cried tears of joy. But me, I waited and waited, checking my watch, and then I started dialing every number one by one. "Honey, Mom is busy at the spa, it's not convenient. You're a grown-up, call an Uber, okay?" My mom's voice rang out indifferently. "Dad is at the golf course, I can't leave now." "You figure it out yourself," my dad said. Without a moment's hesitation. My brother, Michael, even sneered on the phone. "You're overreacting. You're fine. Take care of yourself. I have plans with my friends." I was stunned. A brain surgery, and they called it no big deal. A girl who had just escaped death, and they saw her as a burden. I sat there for 3 hours, calling again and again, hoping someone would take pity on me and come. But no one did. I remember the nurse's look when she saw me, a mix of pity and shock. She whispered, "I've never seen anyone abandoned like this after surgery." Just when I was about to give up, a figure appeared. Dr. Elena Cruz, the neurosurgeon who saved my life. She walked over, her eyes filled with fury as she listened to the nurse's story. I didn't know then, but it turned out that this woman was not just my doctor. She was also the wife of Richard Cruz, the CEO of Davidson Industries, the very company where my father had worked for over 15 years and where he was about to be promoted to regional director. At that time, I didn't understand. But it turned out that my family's indifference had set them on a path to ruin. Sitting in that wheelchair, I suddenly remembered my entire childhood. What outsiders called a happy family was, to me, just a stage where I never had a leading role. My parents always had a child to brag about: Michael, my younger brother. And I was just a faint shadow. The day I was high school valedictorian, I stood on the podium to receive my diploma and looked down at the audience. My parents' seats were empty. They had chosen to go cheer for Michael at a district basketball competition. I remember clearly when I stepped down. As the whole auditorium erupted in applause, I saw my Aunt Margaret stand up alone, clapping with tears in her eyes. She had driven for 4 hours just to be there, only to tell me afterward, "You will do extraordinary things. One day, they will realize what they lost. But by then, it will be too late." In college, when I graduated with honors in engineering, my parents sent a short text. "Congratulations. Oh, can you help Michael with money for his Europe trip?" I sat there looking at my phone, laughing bitterly. Just then, Aunt Margaret appeared again, quietly transferring $5,000 to me, along with a card. "For a girl who deserves to be celebrated, even when others are too blind to see." This favoritism wasn't just in achievements, but also in sickness. When Michael broke his arm playing basketball, my parents stayed by his side at the hospital all night, even hiring a private nurse. But when I was hospitalized with severe pneumonia and almost died, they said, "It's just a cold, don't be dramatic. We're very busy." And once again, it was Aunt Margaret. She drove through a snowstorm, brought me hot soup, and held my hand when I coughed up blood. I thought I had gotten used to their coldness, until the doctor told me I had a brain tumor. My mom's reaction almost made me faint. Oh, what a bad time. "And Michael's wedding plans are all set." My dad added, "Can you postpone the surgery until after the wedding?" "The family is very busy right now." I couldn't believe my ears. Only Aunt Margaret hugged me over the phone, her voice firm. "I will be there. Family never abandons each other in a crisis." But then, she passed away just 3 weeks before my surgery date. Cancer took away the only person who stood by me. On the day of her funeral, I felt like my world was falling apart. But before she died, she left me an envelope. "Hannah, I've seen it all. For 25 years, I've recorded every time they abandoned you, every moment they chose Michael over you. And I've kept something important, A friendship of over 40 years with the Cruz family. Remember that name. When you need a real family, they will be your support. I believe you'll need them. I didn't understand. Until the day I woke up after the surgery, saw Dr. Elena Cruz looking down at me, and heard her call me by the name Aunt Margaret always used, Margaret's amazing granddaughter. And I knew what she left behind was not just a promise, but a weapon. 2 weeks after my discharge, my body was still weak, the incision not fully healed, but my mind was clearer than ever. I knew that my father, David Williams, was about to enter the most important moment of his career, the annual gala of Davidson Industries, where he would be announced as the new regional director, a position with a salary of over $200,000 that he had been bragging about for a year. I received a short text from my mom. "Don't come. You'll embarrass your father." I laughed bitterly. How many times had I heard this before? "You're a disgrace to us. You're not as good as your brother." But this time I decided I would go. I put on the most beautiful dress that still fit me after the surgery, and put on light makeup to hide the dark circles under my eyes. I walked into the hall with shaky legs, but my head held high. On stage, my father was smiling radiantly, holding a microphone. Around him, the board of directors, shareholders, and powerful wives of the business world were listening intently. He began his speech about family values. And then, the worst thing I had predicted happened. He pointed to me, his voice full of fake pride. "My daughter Hannah just went through a small surgery, but we taught her to be independent, never to rely on others. She can take care of herself and not bother her parents' careers." That is true. Family value raising children who know how to stand on their own without becoming a burden. The whole hall applauded. My mom nodded, smiling, and added, "We're proud that Hannah didn't turn a small thing into a drama, not getting in my husband's way during such an important time." I sat there, stunned. A small thing? It was brain surgery. A surgery that, if delayed by just a few weeks, could have left me unable to speak, or even killed me. And they were turning it into an example of independence? In that moment, when I felt like I was about to collapse, Dr. Elena Cruz stood up. As the CEO's wife, she had the right to speak. She spoke in a calm but firm voice. "If I may, I'd like to share a different perspective on family and leadership." My father laughed heartily. "Oh, of course, Dr. Cruz. We've always admired how you raised your children to be so strong." Elena smiled coldly. "Mr. Williams, I was Hannah's surgeon, and I can state clearly that she did not undergo a small surgery. It was open-skull brain surgery to remove a dangerous tumor. If it had been delayed, she could have suffered permanent damage or even died." The entire hall fell silent. I saw Richard Cruz, the CEO, frown, leaning his head to look at his wife, then at my father with a cold stare. Elena continued, her voice growing sharper. "And after the surgery, when Hannah needed her family most, she was abandoned. She sat in a wheelchair for 3 hours, having just had brain surgery, calling one relative after another. What were the answers? Spa, golf, friends. Not a single person came. Whispers broke out across the room. A few of the wives on the board covered their mouths, so shocked they were almost in tears. My father hastily interrupted. "Wait, you're twisting the truth. We taught Hannah to be independent. She's strong enough." But Elena had pulled out her phone, pointing it directly at the large screen in the hall. An image of me huddled in the wheelchair, my head wrapped in a bandage, my eyes swollen from medication, my hand trembling as I held my phone, calling repeatedly. 3 hours. No one came. And then, Elena delivered the final blow. There is someone who saw everything. Someone the Williams family cannot deny. Please, everyone, listen. The screen switched to a video. Aunt Margaret. Her voice rang out, shaky but resolute. "If you're hearing this, it means Hannah needed the truth. I've witnessed it for 25 years. This girl was neglected, abandoned, while her brother was celebrated. I've recorded everything, because I knew that one day Hannah would need a witness who couldn't be ignored." Images appeared. My graduation photo without my parents, my medical records for pneumonia, the short congratulatory text messages, contrasted with Michael's extravagant party. All the evidence my aunt had left behind. The whole hall erupted. Some were angry, others were furious. CEO Richard Cruz stood up, his face pale with rage. He turned to my father. "Mr. Williams, you're asking for a promotion based on family values? Where are those values when you abandoned your daughter after brain surgery to go play golf? There will be no promotion for a man like that." I sat there speechless. For the first time, the truth was no longer buried under my parents' fake smiles. It exploded right in front of all the people they had tried to impress. Right there in that hall, everything collapsed in a matter of minutes. Richard Cruz announced to the entire board, "There will be no promotion tonight. Davidson Industries cannot have a man who abandons his daughter after brain surgery, representing our values of family and leadership." Applause broke out, but not for my father. It was for the truth that had just been revealed. I saw my mom freeze. The color drained from her face. My dad tried to maintain his composure, but his colleague's eyes only held contempt. Just a few hours later, the image of me in the wheelchair and my aunt's video went viral on social media. The hashtag number brain surgery abandonment trended. My father, who had once been proud of his unblemished reputation, suddenly became a symbol of hypocrisy. In the following months, the consequences came crashing down on the Williams family. My father lost his position, his reputation was tarnished, his career stalled, and his colleagues shunned him. My mother, once proud to be a successful lady, was ostracized from social groups and clubs. No one wanted to invite her to charity galas anymore. Michael, the golden child, faced immense pressure. His friends and his fiancé's family whispered. His family abandoned his sister after brain surgery. The extravagant wedding he had planned became a joke. As for me, my life took a completely different turn. During my recovery, Elena and Richard Cruz took me into their home. For the first time, I felt the true meaning of family. Someone who checked on me every morning, who listened when I was in a panic, who applauded when I took my first steps again. Not a word of blame, not a single comparative glance. Richard looked at me and said, "Davidson Industries needs people who know what resilience. Island Hannah, you deserve a chance. If you'd like, join our technical department." I nodded, not just because of the job, but because for the first time, someone truly saw my worth. When I received my first bonus, I knew what I had to do. I established the Margaret Williams Foundation, a fund named after my aunt. The goal was clear: to support patients who went through major surgeries but were abandoned by their families. The foundation covers travel costs, post-op care, and even temporary housing. I also turned my aunt's old house into a small center where patients could find comfort. The first person I took in was a young man who had been disowned by his family after coming out. I cared for him, just as my aunt had once cared for me. Every morning, I walk past Aunt Margaret's flower garden, smelling the flowers she used to grow, and I feel like she is still here, smiling down at me. Of course, my parents also tried to get in touch. They sent emails, messages, vague apologies, saying it was a misunderstanding and that they wanted to reconcile. But I only responded with polite silence. Because I understood some bridges, once burned to ashes, cannot be rebuilt with just an apology. I don't need them anymore. The brain surgery was once the greatest fear of my life, but it turned out to be a crucial milestone. It showed me who truly deserves to be called family. It gave me the strength to live for myself, not as a faint shadow behind others. I didn't seek revenge on my parents. I just lived better than they ever thought I could. And that is the most perfect revenge.